everybody. Welcome to episode 5 of season 2 of the Norwalk Film Festival podcast. We talk to filmmakers who have projects in our festival this year. Today's episode is The Next Bells, and our guests are writer and director Joey LaFrance and director of photography Brenden Mascherino. Guys, thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks so much for having us, Sean.
Yeah.
Cool. So first of all, I'll just give the log line of the film just for our audience. Lily is waiting for an important phone call and navigates life assuming the worst, leading her down a dance-filled, spiraling path of self-discovery. So The Next Bells is a musical, which is so awesome. You don't often see, independent films and short films that come with such that are musical. So what inspired you guys to put this together?
I always kind of had an idea to make a musical, and when the time came for us to make our senior film projects at school, I had an idea to make a musical, but I also had the idea for this story, which was about sort of discovering yourself and living in the moment. And I thought it would just be an interesting way to tell that story would be through this musical lens, because it's such a real story that I think a lot of people can strongly relate to. And I think it was important to find a unique way to tell that story, because that sort of theme has been done many times before. But
Of course,
I think having it from a musical perspective allows it to stand out from other things, and is honestly a more fun way to tell that message. So it was kind of like a perfect storm, I think, that all these factors sort of lined up and allowed for it to happen. So
yeah, musicals are great because it allows you that like ability to have the characters sing their inner monologue and what they're thinking versus having a 2-minute monologue where they're staring at a screen. So it's a nice device. So Brenden, did you have growing up have a affinity for musicals or anything, or were you brought along for the ride by Joey?
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. It was a very fun ride, but he definitely grabbed me by the back of the neck and was like, "Yo, you got to watch these musicals because they're such an amazing feat of filmmaking." And I never really took the bait on going to watch musicals live, and I wasn't just I don't know, I wasn't drawn to it as much as I was maybe going to watch a standard drama or something. So when he showed me musicals like The Sound of Music and West Side Story, and he's like, The Young Girls of Rochefort were huge, heavy, inspirations of what The Next Bells is. And it's so coded in what we're doing with the camera as well. But he's showing me these and being like, yo, this is what I'm trying to do, and saying how I'm trying to say it. And I was starting to understand the language, and I fell in love with those films because I'm so used to the melodramatic dramas that are coming out trying to say what we're trying to say in The Next Bells. And this was just a more fun, and this genre allows you to kind of bend the standards that we see in film these days. So it's more of an experimental category if you look at it in a specific way. And it's like a music video, but you're also making a typical narrative. So it was fun. Yeah.
So aside from doing this research, watching some of these musicals for the first time, how did you guys work together in the pre-production process to get all this together? I mean, obviously you had a large team. We'll talk a little bit more about your production design and choreography and all that in a minute, but just how the two of you work together in the pre-production process to make sure that you had a good plan going forward.
Yeah, we've worked together on several projects before, so it sort of came naturally for us to start this process. And I think it was just important for us to always just be totally honest with each other in everything that was going on in the planning, and just being as collaborative as we possibly can about, making the shot list and planning, who we want to be on our team, and just all these factors that come together to create, one bigger thing is so important to have somebody you trust. Like I trust Brenden. So I'm super grateful to have him along for the ride, and our collaboration, I think, made this film possible. I don't think I could have done it with anybody else. So.
Oh, no, likewise. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I guess technically speaking, you know, it was important for us to get our feet wet with shooting. Well, first of all, shooting a musical as a student is something that's, you know, nearly unheard of. So
Yeah.
it was attractive as a project, you know, as a cinematographer, you know, not really having experience with musicals at all, even in my taste, you know, it was like, how do I bring my own, you know, workflow to something as like grand as this? Um, and so it was like we were talking about the tools that we were going to use to make the camera move, and also just shooting a ton of tests and kind of
Mm.
seeing what options are out there. And especially with working with film at this level, we were like super adamant about
Yeah.
what film stocks are available to us. How is it that the colors in Jacques Demy's films are so vibrant, you know? And how are
Mhm.
we gonna bring that into our world when we have kind of like a duller looking, you know, backlot that maybe we were working with? How can we bring life into it? And so, you know, that was collaborating with other departments, but early on it was like just inviting ideas with bringing in colored lighting and shooting all of those tests that we had done. I think we shot like two or three film stocks and then kind of compared them in different lighting
Wow.
scenarios. And you know, we already had some blocking ideas down for scenes, so we also shot like mock scenes with our lead actress, which was like it was such a it was such an informative experience doing that, because we got to go through the process of working with the film lab again and really talking to them about the different film stocks and what the development process is like, and why we chose to maybe overexpose or underexpose a stock and
Mhm.
see how it kind of reacted with the grain structure a little differently, because film stock wasn't made the same way it is today as it was back then, you know. So we're like, how do we get it to look that way with having a completely different chemical makeup that we're working with?
That,
So
that's
um but yeah, I mean, we could go on and on about that, but it was I think that what I'm saying, what I'm getting at is the prep and the treatment and the tests and how
Mhm.
we decided to go about that definitely helped us go down the right rabbit hole. Um, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the shooting on film gives it such a beautiful quality. And it was like when I first started watching the screener, I was like, oh, do I need to? I was like, oh, it looks a little. I was like, oh no, it's film. Oh, okay. Like, yeah. I was like,
Yeah.
it's great. As you said, the colors really come through. And so I guess in that same vein, with all the color and lighting stuff, tell us a little bit about working with your costume designers and production designers to have all that come together.
Yeah, we had an awesome art department team. We had Aiden Sky Jameson making costumes, and we had Kaylee Riley as our production designer. And they're both such geniuses at what they do. And they, from day one, they just totally got the vision right away.
Mhm.
I think it's pretty clear that they both totally got the whole color palette and just the design of how we wanted to make it look like it was more of a maybe 60s like retro look. And that I think comes across in the costumes, in the production design, in pretty much everything that they had their hands on. So working with them was awesome, and I think they brought so much to the table. And same thing with them; it would not have been possible without working with them. So
Yeah.
you also had a close collaboration with them too, Brenden. If you want to talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, going into again more of a technical side, but we were also looking at costumes that were gonna, you know, show up correctly the way we, you know, they're gonna look different than they would in real life than on shooting on film with the
Mhm.
texture and the rendition of color. So it was like shooting close, you know, color values to that in the tests and seeing how they came out and sharing that information with the production design team and the costume team and seeing how, you know, they might have to change some things before going into buying things. So
Yeah.
um, yeah, we were just working super closely with them, those departments, and yeah.
Right. Joey, you kind of touched on it a second ago, but my one question, I mean, plenty of questions watching through it, but you mentioned it's like 60s time period, but then they also have a flip phone at one point, and then a pay phone. And so I was
Hmm.
just like, oh, I
Right.
haven't seen both of those things in a while. So it's a nice, is it meant to be just kind of a, unknown period of time just with these like 60s flair and style, I guess is the is my question.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I think I view it as a bit of like an ambiguous sort of time period, and I
Ambiguous.
wanted
That's
to
what I
sort
was
of,
looking for.
yeah, and I wanted to make the story feel sort of timeless. So I think there's things that people of all ages could relate to in it, whether it's calling someone on a payphone or calling someone on a cell phone.
Great. Yeah. So, I mean, on top of all this stuff, the other two people you have to work with are your writer and composer and choreographer. So, I guess first you can start. What was it like writing the songs with Phineas Moore, who did that? And, what was that collaborative process like?
Yeah, that was a really unique experience because we had to write most of the music before we even shot the film because it has to
Right.
line up with the choreography. So I was I was having to give Finn information about the film and the plot before it was done being written, and obviously before we even shot it. So
Yeah.
again, he was another person that just totally got the vision right away, and he's such a great composer that you can just give him adjectives that you want to feel, and he'll be like, all right, I got that, and he'll be able to come up with something that's just exactly the emotion you want to get to.
Isn't it amazing how composers can do that? You're like, I want a little
Yeah,
bit of this with a touch of whimsy, and they're like, done. Here you go. And you're like,
done.
oh,
Yeah.
He does it in like a day.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's ridiculous how talented he is. And yeah, also our choreographer Emily Rollins worked closely with us in that regard as well, because she had to then take his music that he wrote and create, dance sequences based on that. So she's a really talented performer and choreographer, so it was great to work with her to sort of design the specific looks, because I don't have a dance background at all, so I was kind of just, I didn't really know what I was talking about. I have more of a music background, so I sort of understood how to speak with Finn about that, but
Sure.
with Emily I was sort of just, I had no experience with that, so she was so great at helping me understand what the right moves were supposed to be and how to take all that stuff. So she was great to work with as well.
And Brenden, what was it? Did you work with Emily on making sure that, when you got into the sets and stuff, making sure that choreography worked with lighting and all that? Like, what was that process for you?
Yeah. Joey and I, it was so nice our senior year of school where we kind of had time to really focus on the pre-production. We really took the time to be in a studio space and work with all of the dance team and all of the dancers and Emily, and really like plot out points on the ground with tape, and we were charting out like our shots, how long we wanted each shot to last for, because a lot of those dolly shots in the beginning of the film, they only last for a certain amount of counts. So with musical timing and stuff, we wanted to make sure we had all that stuff figured out before we walked into the space that we were shooting at for, only a few hours in the day. So we were like, and we're working against the sun too there. So we're like, we got to make sure that we have all of this down pat. So it was great working with her. I worked with her on a dance film prior, so I kind of understood, and I've shot dance before, but nothing like a single camera musical with a large amount of dancers doing so many intricate things at the same time.
Yeah.
So it was a lot about just like, finding where the money shot is going to be, and then like parking the camera there, and then just like if the shot needed to move for a specific reason, letting the room and the group of people dictate what was going to happen next, instead of doing anything over the top and extravagant.
Good.
We were kind of taking a more subtle approach, and just kind of having like how amazing the space and the people moving in it is speak for itself. So
Man, I didn't even think of that like your dolly move has to be, or whatever move you're doing, like has to be on a certain count. That like if it's a couple notes too long, then like, oh, it's not gonna, you don't settle, you don't learn. Oh man.
Yeah.
Just another layer of stuff, which makes it all more impressive that you guys put this all together and did. So now that you're through all the pre-production stuff, what was your shoot like? How many days was it? And tell us a little bit about the lot and everything that you were on.
Yeah, it was a pretty crazy shoot. We had 4 days, so we had to cram a lot into a short amount of time. And we started with some of the stuff that was outside when she was singing, and after that we went into the office on the second day, and then our last 2 days were in SCAD's brand new backlot that they just built. and we were allowed to use that. And it was just such a perfect space to have, because we were able to shoot multiple things in there without having to like rent out a bunch of different restaurants and streets. Like the bar scene was shot in the back lot. A lot of the outside numbers were shot in the back lot. So we were able to do so much. Yeah, the montage. We were able to do so much in there. And so huge thanks to SCAD for allowing us to use that resource, because it would not have been possible to do that without it. It would have had to have been a week's shoot.
Yeah. There was like one point I was watching and I was like, man, they really got like traffic control. And I like looked at it and I was like, oh, I think this is a set. It's a backlot or whatever. So
well, yeah, it's crazy though that oh my gosh, there's so many things that are just like hitting my brain, like thinking back on.
How long ago did you guys actually shoot it?
This was shot in the beginning of April.
Yeah.
April 2024. So about
not too
7 months ago.
Yeah.
8 months ago.
Yeah.
But there was moments of time that like I didn't think. We walked on set, and the set overall, just looking back at like the weekend or however many days we shot it for, it was like a divine time, because there was so much trust in our other crew members to do their job the best they possibly can, and they cared so much about the project that there was like a sense of relief while we were there making it, when the streets where we were shooting those, like on like the cobblestone and the brick roads, like those streets needed to be clear of cars, or else, you know, the magic would kind of be taken out a little bit. I feel like it would have been placed too contemporary, I guess. So we wanted to have this, like, is it today? Is it not? Like, we don't really know. It feels like magical that this specific street is cleared for her to sing this piece in. So like our, you know, Abe Katz, he went out of body for making sure all of these cars were clear, and and on the back lot we didn't have to worry about that. We had a water hookup for a hose that we could spray it in the air and get the rain effect, you know. So there were a lot of things working in our favor, including the sunny weather and the beautiful painted houses on the streets where the cops, you know, graciously closed off for us to use.
That's awesome.
But
yeah, no, I mean, it always takes like everything to come together and that to make something work. Did you guys run into anything on those days that you had to scramble and change, or was it all pretty divine?
We were well prepared, but I think there were some instances where, like, for example, in the office, we were so loose on time, or so behind on time sometimes, that we would have to like adjust some of the blocking maybe to fit the shot we were trying to make, maybe have a couple of shots get covered in the same shot. But I think overall we did a good job of planning through most of the. I think pre-production is just about preparing for all the consequences and problems that will arise on set.
Yeah.
So,
and if you don't plan for them, that's when stuff goes completely wrong.
Right.
Yeah. Our first AD, Logan Keith, kept us in line, and he was a director that I had worked with in the past too. So it was a funny like dynamic. All of us friends were just who we'd all collaborated together in some capacity. Was like, it was a great crew of people. There was always smiles on set, so it was great.
That's great. All right, so now the question is, what are you guys working on next? What's you got anything in the pipeline, or just chilling? What's your plan?
We do. I think you should introduce what we have going on next.
Yeah, true. So recently, Joey and I we just shot actually, and we just picture locked our new short film. It's called So Long. It's kind of a portrait about my grandparents and them growing old together, but also learning to let go of the past. So it's an experimental short film that we should be releasing in the spring, but we're trying to prep it for some film festivals as well. Also got to shoot it on 16 millimeters, so that was also really great. Some leftover film that we had from the next Bells. So
awesome. That's great. Well, I just want to say thank you guys so much for joining me today and for sharing your film with us. It's part of a great block that's going to be Saturday, January 11th. Surprise, it's 6 months later. No, it's January 11th from 10 to 12 at the District Music Hall. Thanks so much for joining me, guys. And before we go, let us know what your social media or anything, if people want to follow along with what else you're working on, let us know where they can find you.
Yeah, you could find me at Joey LaFrance 19 on Instagram, LinkedIn, Joseph LaFrance.
Yeah. I guess the best way to do this is through the website. My website's just my first and last at .com, BrendenMascherino.com.
Cool. And we'll put those in the show notes as well, so that they're nice and easily clickable for people.
Amazing.
Well, thanks again, guys. Really appreciate it, and congratulations on the next bells. We're happy to have it as part of our festival.
Thank you so much.
Sean.
Appreciate it.